What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, and Happy New Year to everybody that is tuned in. It is December 31st, 2023. Believe it or not, where have these last few years, not only just this one, gone? I can't believe I'll be waking up tomorrow and saying it's 2024, but either way, the world did end when it came to AEW last night, or we saw Worlds End. Either way, it was an exciting pay-per-view, a wild event. We have a lot to break down today. And if we're going to do that, I'm going to need a crew to roll with. I'm going to need a couple of buddies. Absolutely, couple of reliable guys or girls, but we got guys today to break this one down. First, I'm sending this one up north, not to the North Pole, just south of the North Pole, Regina, Canada. Our head of reviewing, the man who reviewed, worked his tail off last night, broke the entire thing down for everybody on Wrestling Republic, Coby Galenzoski. How are you doing on this New Year's Eve edition of the daily broadcast?
I'm doing fairly well. Of course, we all had AEW last night. It's an enjoyable time to say we have a pay-per-view this close to the end of the year. It used to be something we did, WWE did 15 years ago, probably more, but now it's something AEW is probably likely going to do next year as well, and it's an interesting thing. I thought it was a fun show, and I'm glad to be here to talk about it, like always.
Absolutely. I'm stoked to have you as always, Coby, and Happy New Year. Up next, though, we've got the Tuesday Night Delight himself. How could we do a show breaking down World's End AEW headed into 2024 without the Tuesday Night Delight, dressed in his Birds gear, but from the DMV? Shad, how are you on this fun Sunday afternoon?
Oh, the two's up. Would be a little bit better. This Eagles team frustrates me a lot. But I'm not focused on the game now. I might be watching it when I'm not talking. Who knows? But I'm good, man. It's New Year's Eve. My oh my, has this year gone by so fast. It's been a very monumental year for myself. A lot of stuff is coming to fruition with me in my life, and I got to be a part of the Wrestling Republic team. So I'm going in half a year, a little over half a year strong since I joined y'all, but I'm happy to be here, man. I'm ready and excited to talk about World's End. I actually watched it this morning, so it's fresh in my head. Let's get into it.
Let's go. And an absolutely delightful year for both wrestling and Wrestling Republic. I think, no doubt, totally outstanding across the board. I mean, we saw not only AEW and WWE thrive, but New Japan, numerous companies. We've got a couple comments here from a few of our good friends. Numero One Superfly says, Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve to you as well. Numero One Superfly, thank you for tuning in as always. And then our other friend, Bobby Petito, our good friend, Bobby Petito. Happy New Year's to you guys. Appreciate you guys so much. We appreciate you too, Bobby. You are the man. But let's break down World's End last night, and let's start out of the gates with what I thought was a banger and maybe potentially match of the night. We had Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland. We had TLC chants. We had ladders. We had chairs. We had tables. We had flaming tables. We had family drama. We had, what more could you ask for from a professional wrestling match? In my eyes, almost maybe should have main evented the night. I understand the way that the show was ended, but maybe should have main evented the night. I'm going to toss this one to you first, Coby. What were your thoughts on this match? Do you agree that it was match of the night? And where do they go from here after the swerve we saw immediately post-match?
I 100% agree with the statement that was match of the night. There's none that really reached the level that this match got to, which it's fine. Obviously, it would have been better if that's the main event because you want your match of the night to be the main event if possible. I thought it was really well done because these are two men who are definitely on the older end of the roster, but they just proved that they are still. I don't want to say they're still kicking, but they're still at the top of their game. Christian's having one of his top runs as in his wrestling hit career. Adam Copeland, of course, joined AEW, and this was, I don't want to say the peak of his career so far, but it's definitely the best match he's had, even though you can count the number of matches on a few hands, on one or two hands. I thought it was very well done because they worked on different things. Adam Copeland wore his Mania vest that he wore when he went to face Mick Foley. And I don't want to say this match had parallels to that, but it definitely had the flaming table spot. The other one is it just has a lot of history and a lot of connections to what these men have done. The sunset bomb off the ladder, the doing a lot of the work with the concerto, or the tease of the concertos, I should say. There's a lot of stuff that they did that has connections to what these men have done in the past. I thought that added to this. I think it's an interesting result to do the match, have Adam win off a kill switch, which is shocking. But I guess that instantly, well, he won with the kill switch. Here comes kill switch. We have kill switch gifting his championship kind of, I don't want to say folder, but it was like a notebook to Christian, and Christian cashed in and got the title again. I think it's a weird narrative to tell because the biggest thing is we've seen it in the Jack Perry feud where Christian's been able to whisper something in Luchasaurus and Killswitch's ear. I don't want to say we should forever be reliant on that kind of storyline direction of Christian has control over him because of what he says, but I just don't know where or if there'll be the point where that changes. I don't know how we'll get to, oh, he's breaking free out of whatever the trance or whatever he's saying, but I don't know. I think it's interesting because you got heat on Christian Cage with this win, and that's what you want to do. But the match itself was great. You had a hot crowd. You had great action, great moves. Obviously, you have Christian's hair looking a little thin, but yeah, I have zero complaints about this match.
I hear you, and I love how you broke that down too. I think it was the match of the night for sure. We've got a few comments over on Instagram from Beetle Chris that I'm going to read actually after this segment that are really good. But Coby, I love the way you broke that down. Shad, I got to get your thoughts on this one as well. How did you feel about especially the involvement from Nick Wayne's mother, right?
Mhm.
On top of that brief moment where it felt like Killswitch, artist formerly known as Luchasaurus, might
Mhm.
actually cash in the contract himself. Then he turns it over to Christian. We have the swerve, for lack of a better way to put it. No pun intended. We'll talk about Swerve Strickland later in the show. But for the swerve, what were your thoughts on the entire thing? And do you think this rivalry does continue from here? Are we going to see that? I guess now fourth match if you include the Money in the Bank callback post match.
Yeah, man. So Friday I obviously got an opportunity to talk about the preview of this match, and a lot of my concern was more so that we were going into this second bout pretty quickly with not as much build up as I would like to see it in regards to a lot of, segments, situations tied to both competitors, and it kind of put themselves, in my opinion, in a way where they may have backed themselves in a corner for a booking situation. But I did say that I would picked Christian Cage to win, and I think it would have been tied to his faction, the patriarchy, getting him the W, which ultimately did happen. Now, how it happened, I thought it was a beautiful maneuver. I know a lot of people are, you know, they'll have their opinion on it. They'll be like, it doesn't make sense. Why would he just give it to him? Why wouldn't he use it on himself? But this is the mastermind heel work that we've built with Christian Cage. How he's got these guys pulling strings with these people in his faction. How he's able to maneuver them to come align themselves with him. It's great, man. And when we eventually do get the decision where maybe Nick Wayne, maybe Kill Switch turns on him, it'll be even greater. But you got to let it breathe. You got to let it continue. I would keep it going because you can't tell me that last night's match wasn't one of the best AEW matches this year, in my opinion. Um, Matter of fact, both matches that these guys had against each other in
Yeah.
one-on-one bouts have been sensational. And to think that we're at a point in 2023 where we have Edge and Christian knowing the wear and tear they put on their bodies throughout years, the time frame that Edge has been out of professional wrestling, and it being as great, not even good, as great as it is, we as wrestling fans are ultimately winning. It's it was my favorite thing of the entire show that I watched on the pay-per-view. I was up this morning at 8 o'clock going ooh and ah to everything, all the spots, all the callbacks. It was wonderful, man. You see how much new life that Edge has brought back into wrestling for himself. You know, whether you agree or disagree with him going to AEW, you can't deny the fact that this dude is doing something that he genuinely does love, and that's being in a storyline and getting to work with Christian Cage. And I think that's the beauty of it, and that what makes this go over the top. Even if it's not booked to a T to what people may like, or maybe what album may like, I think these guys knock it out the park so well that you as a fan love to enjoy it. So all in all, man, phenomenal match. I'm definitely curious to see how we go on. I don't think Edge needs to be a champ of this belt, but I want to see the story that ties with both of them, how it keep unravels and ravels with the other guys part of it, because that's what also makes it interesting. It's not only about Edge and Christian or Copeland and Christian. It's about Nick Wayne. It's about Killswitch. You are invested in to see what is the next move. When are they going to turn on them? When is Copeland and Christian going to reunite? There's a lot going on, and that's what makes wonderful just storylines in pro wrestling. So all in all, man, kudos to him. I'm giving it a 5 star from the Tuesday Night Delight.
I love it. I love it. And I loved the match myself. I thought it was amazing. We got a couple great comments here too. Bobby Petito with he's interested to see if they continue this story into AEW Revolution. And then Numero on Superfly added, Adam versus Christian was really a good match, although the table spot was kind of messed up. Not only did Adam need to light up the table again, but Adam missed putting Nick through the table. I think that one was while I agree
It was
camera
a little.
angle wise,
It
it was
was
a
a
little
little
funky.
scary. I ain't gonna lie.
I gotta admit, the fact that it was a power bomb spot, I thought they were setting up for some sort of repeat of the spear spot. And the fact that it was a power bomb spot, I'm not blaming Nick Wayne. I think he's actually unbelievably talented and underrated, especially given his age in some ways,
You
because
you you know
that's
how
all you kind of
what
talk
I've
about.
mentioned about Nick Wayne on our Dynamite
Yes,
reviews. You
numerous
we
time
we
mentioned it.
we've you, myself, and Anthony have always said that this kid has a special talent to. We're seeing him start and be as good as he is now. By the time he's like what 25, 26, he's gonna be taking the AEW roster by storm.
I think so, no question. And I guess my point kind of about the table spot itself is nobody wants to go through a flaming table. And so he was a little long, and it's probably a little bit of both there, but it looked good enough, right? Did we really need to see him get all burnt up? Probably not. We understood what the point was. And at the end of the day, right, we'll take it for what it is. We got a few other comments here though from Beetle Chris over on Instagram. He wished us all Happy New Year first off, and then there's some weird trolling comments along the way. Thanks a lot, guys. And then there's what is your guys' take on Kevin Dunn's departure from WWE? What impact will it have on WWE in the short term and long term? And who will praise Kevin? I'm going to answer this one really quickly. Honestly, that is nearly impossible in my eyes to quantify because Kevin Dunn was there for very long. And like, say what you will about, there's been numerous rumors about people that have had, whether it's controversy or beef with Kevin Dunn or whatever it may have you. There's a lot of success under Kevin Dunn. Whoever is replacing Kevin Dunn is likely somebody that's been super trained in the production side of things, and it will probably be a completely seamless transition. It will be interesting if I think, and it's not a question I can answer for maybe a decade, but if 10 years from now, the name that does replace Kevin Dunn is similarly in the pro wrestling lexicon of discussion
Hmm.
as Kevin Dunn, that'll be where it's more fascinating in my eyes. But I don't think this is going to be some kind of like a uh, overly newsworthy signing. This will be an internal hire of somebody that's been there working under Kevin Dunn for all these years, has a very good understanding of the procedure and all of that. And so yeah, that would be my belief. And I mean, at the end of the day, say what you will, Kevin Dunn produced a lot of great shows for the WWE. He did. And I love pro wrestling. So, we got a few comments here like everyone hates AEW. I don't think so. We all like pro wrestling here.
No, no,
but
but we cover all facets of pro wrestling on this channel, on our website. We all are avid wrestling fans, man. We appreciate what these superstars do on a day to day basis, man. There ain't enough hate in my heart to put towards the entire company. It don't go like that, man.
yeah, it's just it's one of those things that, comes with the territory. Let's talk though next about another match. Let's talk about the 8-man tag match. This was kind of a funky one, I think, for almost anybody that watched it, right? Like on name value, it's outstanding. We're talking about Claudio Castagnoli, Brian Danielson, Mark Briscoe, and Daniel Garcia, all four talents over. Brody King, Jay White, Jay Lethal, and Roosh, all four talents over. All 8 talents involved in the Continental Classic. But there was something about this that I just did feel like it was a slightly lower point than it should have been in the card. I enjoyed the match, bell to bell speaking, but it felt like it should have felt more important, for lack of a better way to put it. Shad, what did you think about it? What do you think about the finish? And where do we go with these 8 absolute superstars? Not to use like a term, I'm not trying to do anything there, but absolute stars, right?
Yeah, no, I mean you aren't wrong on that at all. There's the Continental Classic has done a lot of good for a lot of people on the AEW roster, and that goes to saying for a bunch of dudes who were involved in this match: Brody King, Roosh, Daniel Garcia, Mark Briscoe. You got to see a reminder of what a lot of them can do in ring, and just how great professional wrestlers, characters that they are. Um, I wasn't a fan of the build up, just the randomized going into this match. It's kind of like one of those situations where if I was to compare it, it's kind of like WWE may throw a type of match where it's like the heel competitors versus the babyface competitors in a match on like a SmackDown before we get to the match, right? So those type of matches are always whatever to me. There isn't a lot telling to it, but I was utterly surprised because I think this was one of the most entertaining matches on the card. I think they did a great job making it the first match. I mean, how can you go wrong with all the names listed there? These
Yeah.
guys are all bell for bell, great competitors. Brian Danielson is arguably one of the best professional wrestlers after Tiffany Stratton, of course. But all jokes aside, I mean, it was a great match. And two things that I liked a lot. One, I like the progression that we see with Brody King and this weird feud that he may have with Daddy Magic, Matt Menard. I don't know why. I just absolutely loved him cursing him out by the um by them at the talking table, and then him punching him at the end of the match. But I think the main winner of this match to me was Daniel Garcia, because are going to tell a story that they had a story with a little bit ago when he was part of the JAS still, but his relationship with Brian Danielson kind of telling him like, you need to be a professional wrestler. You're letting that whole sports entertainer thing pollute your mind. We're kind of getting back to that story, and Daniel Garcia got the win. He's one person that only got one win in the Continental Classic towards the end of the tournament when it didn't really matter. He's kind of playing spoiler, but now he got back to back pins, and you're seeing him like, even feel a little like hesitant even doing this little dance because he's looking at Danielson at the edge of his corner of his eye, and he's just like, I don't know, like, are we gonna get a potential Danielson and Garcia match feud? Are we gonna get Daniel Garcia part of the Blackpool Combat Club? Not sure. I think that was one of the most interesting storylines that go with it. But all in all, solid match. I want to see what a lot of these guys do after this, now that the Continental Classic is done, because I'm a big Mark Briscoe fan. I think he did a phenomenal job in a lot of the singles competitive matches. I wouldn't mind to see him, win like some ROH gold and build up ROH off of his back and his lineage. Jay Lethal still can do his thing. Jay White, that dude is a superstar. We got a lot of talent. We got to make sure we position them right. But all in all, solid to me.
Absolutely. I love it. I love the breakdown and could not agree more. In the sense too that I actually enjoyed the match more than I expected to. At the end of the day, right? Like by the end of it, I kind of realized like, what was I thinking? We got a great comment here from Beetle Chris, which was, I really enjoyed the interaction between Brian Danielson and Daniel Garcia in the match. The way Daniel Garcia came across in the scrum showed how he should be portrayed in a serious manner on TV. I agree with that statement almost without question. That is woof.
Two,
You
2,000,000%
nailed it
I
on the
agree with
head there,
that
Beetle
too.
Chris. Yeah. And then we've got another comment from your girl underscore or your underscore girl underscore is underscore a underscore freak underscore wishing us a happy New Year's, which is classic. And then we've got a comment from numero one Superfly, which is the opening 8-man tag, was pretty good despite it being kind of random. The other 8-man tag, just discussing the match itself, it was a bit clunky. All the competitors felt thrown off a bit. I would agree with that. I think by the crowd reaction. And then Bobby Petito added that he'd like to see Mark Briscoe go after Eddie Kingston for Eddie Kingston's titles or Kyle Fletcher's title.
Now,
I,
I like that idea with
I
Kingston versus
really
Mark
like that idea,
Briscoe.
Bobby. That is a delightful idea. But let's move on to our next topic, which is, of course, Miro versus Andrade. We've got the familial issues here, not the familiar issues, but the familial issues, where we've got CJ Perry on the other side of the coin against her husband. I thought this match was fine. I thought it was good. I thought the build to it was exciting enough. Coby, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one. Did you see anything here that bugged you or anything you didn't like about it?
So because this was addressed on the media scrum, I get to discuss this. It was clear that something was, I don't want to say off, but the aura for this match wasn't there. If we're comparing matches, Miro and Hobbs killed it. This one was just failed to deliver slightly, a little underwhelming. It was a good match because we had good selling. Miro, Andrade working Miro's leg. I really enjoyed the role CJ Perry was playing because there was a lot of focus. The story was, this is Miro going after people who CJ Perry was going to try to manage. And the story revolves around CJ, not so much Andrade. I think they did well with what they were given, but like I said, the scrum essentially revealed this is Andrade's last AEW match. Tony Khan said his contract's up and he's not resigning. So re-signing to the company. We it I don't want to say it was obvious, but the aura just what if something wasn't clicking. But I 100% agree. It was good match. It was a good match. Yeah, I mean the pop for CJ turning on Andrade was a well done pop, and it was well received. To me, to me, I want to say that result was influenced by the contract status of Andrade,
Yeah.
but the one thing I want to know is how do they follow up? Can they make this compelling? Is this interesting? I don't want to just see, oh, this happens. Miro says no, no, and she finds someone else. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I agree.
It better not be that.
Yeah.
For one thing. But
Coby, you broke that down pretty perfectly there too. And we got another comment over on Instagram from our good buddy Beetle Chris, which is I really do think that Andrade will be used really well under Triple H led creative. I thought Miro and Andrade put forth an enjoyable match for his last AEW match. I agree with both of those statements. My only concern is I'm not exactly sure where you put Andrade out of the gates. And
We gotta wait and see. Nothing's official yet.
Nothing is official. And so that's the thing is we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because oddly enough, an Andrade return in AEW could be equally as impactful. An Andrade return in WWE could be, fall flat. I don't think that will be the case on either side, but the contract issue, I definitely, to Coby's point, think had a role in the way this match was booked, right?
Yeah.
That all adds up equation wise in my head while we're speculating on it. Now, let's talk about something though that is absolutely timeless. And that is maybe my favorite thing going currently in women's wrestling. It's Toni Storm. It's timeless Toni Storm. She is timeless. It's perfect. The character arc and the role this year is unbelievable to me. What she's been able to accomplish. And Rio being the initial AEW champion is huge. Is huge in this rivalry and build. And it's funny because I made like kind of a flippant joke about Rio on a show in the past, but I'm a huge Rio fan. She is the inaugural champion. One of the things I do want to point out before I ask you your opinion on this one, Shad, is I was actually blown away by this promo video for the match itself. Rio's job building it with the subtitles in the interviews, showing the entire history, showing all of the matches. It's one of the best jobs that AEW's done in a long time of one of those videos. And I have to give credit where it's due here because I was blown away. I knew the story myself, but not everyone did. And I was more pumped for the match after it happened. And then in execution, it was a beautiful, beautiful championship match. I think the right person won in Toni Storm in this one because I think Toni Storm is seriously, seriously onto something. I got to ask you though, Shad, what were your thoughts on the match? Who's the next challenger for Toni Storm? And not only that, where does Rio go from here?
So first and foremost, what's a Rio fan to a Rio stan? All right, Rio fan club over here. We meet every Wednesday. I thought it was a good match overall too. I think it was kind of what I expected it to be. Um, Rio is a solid professional wrestler. She's someone who doesn't get her praise, but she's a fluid worker. She's good at making her competitor look good, and a lot of it alludes to the weight and size disparity between both of them. But she can also lay her like ish in, bro. Like she's one of those Joshi wrestlers that has a good striking game, has very good, you know, rope game in regards to doing maneuvers and whatnot. And I thought they had a fluid match. The Toni Storm vignette, I did like it a lot too. I think Toni Storm does a great job also telling the story herself and a lot of factors that they don't even allude to in the direct promos and exchanges they have. Like I feel like her words cover more ground to what the rivalry is, and that's a lot of credit to her. I think her gimmick is sensational, right? She's doing a great job. I think the interactions with Luther, eventually getting kicked out, but catching Rio, and a lot of it is a good spectacle. Um, we got to see who the next competitor is going to be. And I want to see a competitor that's going to create a more manic style of her character. I want to see her go crazy with this, but not as funny. Like she's losing sleep. She's losing her mind more like how she initially was while she was turning into this. Like I want her to take it up a notch. They got a lot of talented women on that roster. Chris Statlander is a potential opponent. She mentioned her at the scrum. I think they could tell a fun story. Um, we got a free agent out there, Miss Mercedes Monet. If you implement her right out the gate with a match with Tony Storm, not only would that be a very fun match, but it's also a fun character with, the CEO, the boss, and timeless Tony Storm. I wouldn't mind seeing her even feud with Thunder Rosa, right? Like Thunder Rosa is someone who's incredible. She deserves her flowers, and she's a former champ, main time, prime time player on it. So I mean, you got a lot of people, and I think that's the beauty of the women's division that they are, undoubtedly low key stacked in certain spots where Tony is a champ, and this is a new character, Tony. You can redo feuds that she had previously, and it's gonna feel a lot more fresh. But all in all, solid match. I liked it all, and salute to the goat Rio. I hope to see her in other feuds. I wouldn't mind seeing Rio versus Julia Hart for TBS feud because I think you could create a fun story with that, and I think they could have a fun match as well.
I don't mind that in the least at all for a TBS feud. I think that would be outstanding. That is a great, great, great call. And we've got a bunch of comments here too that I'm going to show here. Bobby asked who the next challenger is, and you gave your pick there, and you gave multiple names, which I loved. Thunder Rosa, I couldn't agree more. I'm seeing Dr. Britt Baker a lot here. Even
Yeah,
Bobby added
that's
Dr.
a
Britt Baker for
actually good one
Tony,
too.
and
The
then
new Tony and yeah.
Absolutely. And then Kevin Abreu over on YouTube also added Thunder Rosa versus Tony Storm needs to happen because Rosa never lost the AEW championship, and both women have history with each other. I could not agree more. Um uh no, you're wrong on that one, Kevin Abreu. I'm not even gonna show that comment. But shout out, thank you for commenting. But Beetle Chris over on Instagram had Tony has really found herself in this new timeless character. She's really the entire package. I could not agree more. I think that is a huge thing. What Tony Storm is doing here is going to be special, and it's going to be one of those things that I think in hindsight we're going to even look more fondly upon. It's one of those that on the way up there's some confusion because it is such a drastic change, and that can happen sometimes. But this is the character that Tony was meant to play. She was born to do it. I mean, even the simplicity of the smudged lipstick on the cheek during the post show press conference. This is so calculated. This is so well thought out. And when you have somebody that is talented as Tony Storm in a role like this, and I'm speaking in the literal sense here too, not just in the pro wrestling like kayfabe whatever sense, in a role like this where they're obsessed with playing it and they're this good at it, it is charismatic gold, and it will sell tickets. It's starting to catch on as it should, but this is something that does not need to be ditched. This is something that needs to be pushed even further because she seems to get better every time. Is the gnarliest part since this move into the timeless character. And that to me it's blown me away. The creativity, it's Tony Storm deserves her flowers without question. Let's talk about Dustin Rhodes and Swerve Strickland. This one was funky. We saw the cinder block spot. We saw the ankle injury. They threw us a lot of funk. And I don't know if we wanted the funk, but we got the funk. And we got the funk. But yeah, you know, we got all of it. I thought he sold the injury well enough, and then the match happened, and I love the fighting spirit of Dustin Rhodes, not the spiting spirit, the fighting spirit of Dustin Rhodes. But I don't know how much weight it carries. I think there's also a level of disappointment, and this is no knock on Keith Lee. He was injured and not cleared for the match. But there was just a level of disappointment in the fact that we didn't get that match. Coby, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. You broke it down last night and reviewed it, but Swerve to me is on an arc, and I just, put over Tony the way I did. But Swerve is the only other one I would put currently in that category, maybe on the entire roster, where what Swerve has captured is just beyond special. And it's obvious, and it's on the upswing. What were your thoughts on the execution of the match?
So last time I checked, Funk was on a roll with the Funkasaurus. Overall, that's the thing, and I'll give credit where credit is due, because this is where another scrum note comes into play. Dustin Rhodes took this match. He stood up and said, "I'll do this match," and that just shows you. I don't want to say the company man he is, but that shows you the type of guy he is. Is he's willing to do what needs to be done. Give Swerve the spotlight in that moment. If I'm looking at redeeming qualities of this match, Swerve is undeniably over, and he is one of the top things of AEW right here and right now. The other thing is, I think I never had an issue with the selling, but there was good selling with Dustin's leg, whereas they did the pre-match angle of the stomp on the cinder block and that. I don't know if it was like, okay, do we do the match? Do we do this angle? Maybe, we'll do the angle and the match. I don't know what, in terms of the thought process, I don't know where things were laid out or pitched or in what direction. But to me, if you were doing the angle, don't do the match. Yeah. It was a match that was the shortest of the match if you exclude the cash-in. It was the shortest of the night, but this is the similar effect of the Full Gear main event. Why did Jay White lose to a one-legged MJF? Why is it taking 10 minutes for Swerve Strickland to beat a one-legged Dustin Rhodes?
Right.
That's the issue I can say with this match, that I can nitpick if I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
But this is a match that I don't know if it needed to be on the show. I don't know. But I'm glad Swerve got the spotlight, because he was over. For those in attendance who were there for Swerve, you got your money's worth, because he was undeniably over, and I already said that. But that's one of the highlights of this match.
No doubt, Cobe, and I agree with you so much. I think that the key is really was about keeping Swerve on the card. And so I think that was kind of almost unfair to both competitors. We had a bunch of comments here that I'm going to show. We've got, first off, Bobby Petito, which is Swerve Strickland's great in the ring. Yes, he is. Numero on Superfly with a great one here, which is either Swerve should have destroyed Dustin and then pin him, or destroy Dustin to the point they couldn't do the match. I wish Keith a speedy recovery. I'm with you on all of that. Numero one Superfly. Kevin Abreu, Kervin Abreu added that Tony Khan has still not figured out how to make his pay-per-view not long. I will say, if I'm paying $59.99, I don't mind the extra hour. And then, guys, be honest, don't be biased. We're being honest here on that one, my friend. I can assure you of that. We've got another comment over here on Instagram from Beetle Chris, which is he can see Swerve versus Joe taking place at Revolution. You have to strike while the iron's hot. In my opinion, I could not agree more with that, my friend Beetle Chris. And I think that Swerve Strickland is our next AEW World Champion. And that's still no knock on Samoa Joe. But let's move on to our. We still got a few more subjects here to go. Let's talk Julia Hart and Abaddon, and let's talk about it pretty quickly here, and then we'll talk Kingston and Moxley, and we're going to talk the AEW World Championship before we go home. But let's start with Julia Hart and Abaddon. Wild title match. This is spooky chance the whole time. Shad, break it down, my friend.
Yeah, another okay match. I didn't think it was anything to be up in arms about. I thought they had a solid match for the most part. It's another victory for Julia Hart. I think we're starting to really see her transcend as a women's competitor on the AEW roster. The presentation is top notch, man. Like I think she looks like $1,000,000 in regards to her ring gear, her entrance, the music, all of that. And I mean, Abaddon is a viable competitor. I think the fact that they both have kind of darker characters does make it a little compelling going into the match. I just never have been a major fan of the in-ring work or character Abaddon to other people may have been. It's something that hasn't got to me a whole lot. So it's one of those things where I'm curious to see what happens with her. Is she going to be back on the shelf for a little bit, or is she going to be more of a factor? The one thing I wanted to happen actually, before we finish the topic, is that I think the most intriguing thing that we could have done is maybe Abaddon also align herself with Julia Hart. Why not them have their own like woman pseudo faction of the House of Black, where she has her and Sky Blue? Thought that could have been interesting. Thought it could have been a good way to keep Abaddon on television. But all in all, solid match for the most part.
100%. I totally agree. And we got an awesome comment here too from Bobby Petito, which is since Sky Blue did help Julia Hart beat Abaddon, they should do Abaddon versus Sky Blue. I agree. That's a good match. But I will say also, Beetle Chris has another comment over here on Instagram, which is Julia is still young and developing. The match against Abaddon didn't click for me. I'm sure they both tried their best, but it just wasn't it for me. So this is interesting. I agree in some ways with Beetle Chris over here, only because I don't feel like Abaddon stylistically makes sense as a heel. That just does not add up to me. But let's quickly talk about the finale of the Continental Classic. And this was a wild one. This was Kingston versus Moxley. This was an absolute slugfest. This was Ken Griffey Jr. slugfest. Plugged into your N64 and 98, ready to go, punching people on third base. You could see the welt on both chests post-match. It was an absolute banger in my eyes. I really, truly enjoyed this match. And it made me like the tournament even more because this is what it led to. Coby, what were your thoughts on the match, though, as a whole? And
as
the
a
tournament.
whole, in the tournament, from a standpoint of this is what they provided, it was I don't want to say it was compelling TV, but they did really well with the matches they're doing on TV. They told stories through the block. The Blue League was by far the better league. But I'm gonna sound like a broken record because we've already said this. To me, this was the match because of the undeniable role that New Japan has. It's foreign. It's the Continental Crown, they called it, with the Continental Championship, the Ring of Honor World Championship, and the New Japan Strong Championship. To me, it was clear it was going to be people who New Japan approved or people who New Japan are okay with being in the top spot. Jon Moxley's working Wrestle Kingdom. Eddie Kingston's been a big part of New Japan Strong since the beginning of the year with his feud with Jay White and his in general work going to Japan and having the match with Kenta and Korakuen Hall. or Cork and Hall. To me, this match was really good. Maybe a little delivering, but it was really good. I hope Eddie's okay because he took that dive and hit his head. But other than that, it's a hard hitting, good strikes. Eddie's so believable because he's not the guy that he can take a lot of it and not show it. You are working with a man that no matter what happens, he's gonna sell his life.
Yes.
He's gonna sell it like his life is on the line. And that's one of the biggest highlights of Eddie Kingston. I thought this match was great. I really liked Danielson on commentary for it too. They didn't have Nigel, but Danielson being on commentary helped and added. You have him cheering for Moxley and ultimately kind of being bummed that the King of the Bums took the victory. But it was a really good match. I don't know if it would have been my semi-main event, but it was for what the match was. It made the Continental Classic as a whole a success. If I can say that.
And I think you made an amazing point there too about Danielson's commentary. I thought was beneficial to the match. It really was. Brian can really talk. Like the fact that he went out there with a taped up eye too is even funnier. Just to talk with one eye, like that's a hassle, by the way, for depth perception, but not the point. So we got a few more comments here between YouTube and Instagram. Bobby Petito liked the match between Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. He also hopes that we see another Continental Classic in 2024. And the number one Superfly said that Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston was a really good match. We got an interesting comment also from Beetle Chris over on Instagram, which Beetle Chris, I've been agreeing with you for a lot of this stuff, but he said from the outset of this tournament, it was evident that the entire story surrounding the tournament was designed for Eddie. While I do agree with that, I thought the execution of the tournament in hindsight was better than expected because even though that was an easy projection to make in the beginning of it, it was the classic reverse psychology trick where about halfway through, given the early losses, given the league play stuff and the building up until we got to Eddie Moxley, it didn't feel obvious that it was even possible for Eddie again. And I would not have been shocked if Jon Moxley had gone over last night. So I do actually believe that the tournament still played out in a way where we were, I don't want to say worked, but in some way we were given a bit of a surprise because it was hard not to pick both Swerve Strickland and Jay White. It was hard not to pick Bryan Danielson at certain points, right? We had multiple contenders at various times in our mind. And that to me makes some sense. I don't know what they do with the 3 titles. I kind of hope that they christen a new one for Eddie, maybe on Dynamite. That would be interesting to me. But speaking of christening new titles, guys, Maxwell Jacob Friedman is no longer the world champion in AEW. Samoa Joe's the man. SoCal legend. Shout out SoCal. I love it. I loved the win. He choked him out. Joe is gonna kill you. It was great. Then we have the turn post-match. And things get dicey. It's interesting from here. We all know about the bidding war of 24. We've all got our opinions. We've got comments on Instagram about it from earlier in the show that we may answer if you hung around this long. Hopefully you did. And Coby, I'm going to toss it to you first. You reviewed the show. New champion. Oh, yeah. And then, by the way, I guess it was, I almost forgot. Adam Cole's the devil. What did you think about the main event, Coby? And what do you think about Adam Cole's reveal?
This is what I said in the review, and I'm sitting here sounding like a broken record. MJF is the best seller in wrestling today. his psychology from a standpoint of he knows what to work, he knows how to move, he knows how to sell. Like from kicking out and then grabbing his arm because it hurts, from trying to skin the cat and knowing it's hard, he knows what he's doing. And I feel like I'm a broken record because I say it every single time during MJF's matches. I say it every time, but it's warranted. Was this a surprise? A little. I don't know if we all thought this was going to be the result regarding Joe just winning the match, or because we kind of had the underlying not threat but nugget or pathway, whatever you view, that they could have gone the route that if Joe was working with the devil wanted MJF at way below. So Samoa Joe could have been just hired to do the damage. If MJF sneaks by, but the damage is done. To me, the finish fell flat. It's a really solid match because Joe dominated and it fits the story, and MJF is a heck of a seller. That muscle buster on the apron looked brutal, like it needed to sell the idea. But the finish, the coquina clutch, and the I don't know what the direct word is, but the arm raising. I don't know if they have a direct term for it, but he ended his hand was lifted, fell, and lifted. The third one hit Joe's leg. Does that make this finish muddy? A little. I don't know if that's the result they wanted, if they're using that to progress it. So, MJF can say it didn't hit the bottom or whatever. I don't know if that's the way they're going to go, but the finish fell flat. We had the crowd chanting BS. If you know what BS means, you know the full length of it. They were chanting it. The finish fell flat, and that made the angle fall flat as well. We have the Devil's Men, or whatever they're calling them. We have them rush the ring, and Adam Cole and MJF are being attacked. Adam Cole's not being grabbed, or not being hit. He's being held. MJF and Adam Cole are both screaming at the one to hit them with the chair because they don't want to hurt each other. Light comes out. Light goes out. Light comes back on, and Adam Cole's sitting there. It fell flat because not only did we have the BS chance, but it just, I don't know if it felt rushed. I don't know if it didn't click like it 100% needed to, because a lot of the build and the hype surrounding this story has been gone for a few weeks.
Yes,
and it was dependent on them nailing this reveal, and I don't think they did.
Well, and that's where Coby, I think you made an excellent point there. What I found fascinating was, so it felt almost like it was overthought in the sense that he pulled the mask out of the jacket. But I'm not sure that the mask was in the jacket when he was fumbling for the Dynamite Diamond ring. So that spot seemed to be a little bit funky, right? And then you add in the sit down and there's no pull the mask off reveal. It was Adam Cole the whole time. And Joe's out of there. And I felt like there was an attempt at a Lesnar breaking the streak-esque weight on the music, because MJF passed out and then it was called. I actually thought the referee did an outstanding job, right, making that call. But would you agree on that, right? It felt like there were two swipes at things that just were almost too complicated to even land.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest gripe about it. A lot of comments here about Kyle O'Reilly. I think personally, before I toss this to you, Shad, why not have Kyle O'Reilly be like, you know what? Adam's bugged me for a long time. go back into the act like he doesn't forget about what happened on the way out with the Street Fight series and all of those matches with Adam Cole from NXT. And he goes, you know what? I got your back, Max. And then he turns on him next too. I would not mind that for Kyle O'Reilly's return because it gives us more storytelling. And if that's my answer to the is MJF signed question, then I guess there you have it, my friends. But with that, we need Shad's answer to what his thoughts were on the main event of the evening. Shad.
Oh man. Well, first and foremost, my Eagles lost, so I'm a little sad right now. But uh regards to the main event of the evening, I mean, I share a lot of the same thoughts as Kobe on it. I thought that the match itself displayed a great in-ring bout between both competitors. I think Samoa Joe looked like the killer that he is, and I just like the fact that we're getting an opportunity to give him this type of presentation and him getting an opportunity to be the AEW champion because Samoa Joe is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like one of the best wrestlers of all time, if you want to argue it. I mean, the work that he's done through promotion has been phenomenal. So it is well deserved. I kind of foresaw this devil uh being Adam Cole for a while now. I mean, I think when we initially were asked who we thought the devil was, I was like, I think it's gonna come back to being Adam Cole, and I think that the Kingdom are gonna be the henchmen. And it is that. I mean, I think it was kind of easy to see. Obviously, we hit a couple bumps on the road that may have blurred our vision to think otherwise, but I think it's the right way to go. I thought the ending closing segment with him kind of pleading and being Max's brochacho this whole time, and then the lights cut off, and as they were gonna hit him with the chair, and then you see him sitting in the chair, and all the men unmask, and you have Wardlow also part of it. It's interesting, and it's gonna be something that we are gonna have to kind of see because it looks like Max will probably be written off. We don't know if he's gone or he isn't gone. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But it gets Adam Cole back in the fold on AEW television, and Adam Cole is going to do what he does well, and that's be a great heel character. As much as we love him as a babyface, him kind of being the brainchild and the mastermind of a faction while he's injured, and having people like Wardlow and the Kingdom and Roddy, I think it's going to be really interesting. So I'm excited for it all.
I hear you and I love it. And I agree with you on time off for Maxwell Jacob Friedman. It just makes sense. He deserves it. He's been overworked. We got a comment over on Instagram from Beetle Chris, which is if MJF somehow ends up leaving AEW, how do you continue this story in some way? Or does the reveal of Adam Cole put the MJF to WWE rumors to bed? I don't know if I can fully answer either questions. I personally believe that it does put the rumors to bed. Shad, what are your thoughts on that? And Kobe, what are your thoughts real quickly? Like, do you think MJF, there's any chance he still goes to WWE?
No, I said it on Friday.
Yeah,
I don't think he's leaving AEW. I think if you took time to read his little Tribune piece, you see it.
amazing. Players
Yeah,
Tribune. Yeah. Shout out Derek
yeah,
Jeter.
yeah. You see it means a lot to him. So I think he's not gonna leave. I compared it to he's one of these like primetime figures that are not a WWE wrestler that's big time.
Yes.
I think he holds a lot of value to it. So I don't think he goes there just yet.
Yeah, I think he can also sign a deal, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, and we get that real bidding war then, and he'll be in a place where he's completely financially secure. So negotiation wise, it's worth levying that. I mean, with the shoulder injury, with all of that, the dude has earned time off and paid time off. And we saw him. He did go spend some time in the Hamptons, Montauk. Last 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 summer when the city gets hot in New York. They're in a similar kind of situation leading into this. I'm picturing him at a ski resort hiding out and just having a good old time. But with that, that does bring us to the end of the show. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all of you. And yeah, if aside from that, please do like and subscribe on behalf of me, Shad, Coby, and the rest of us at Wrestling Republic. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year. Most importantly, everybody have a Happy New Year and have a great night and stay safe. And we will see everyone tomorrow, same time, same place.
Don't drink and
Wrestling
drive and
Republic.
call an Uber if you need to.
Yes. Listen to Shad.